Are you listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you can leave a rate or review? Do you like what we're doing? If the answer to all of that is yes, please consider quickly giving us a 5-star rate. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we greatly appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do this.
Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 301. I feel like I've missed something. Of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 29 of A Dance with Dragons, which is Davos 4.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Well, then we are going to spoil things for you, but regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter, and poor old Mackelly had to write them, so really, read them. The things you learn when you listen to the podcast and don't take part. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
It's been too long.
It has. I feel like we have to reintroduce ourselves to each other here. I still have my cold.
You had a cold, didn't you? I remember hearing that. Yes.
The one thing I really noticed when I was listening back is how breathy I was, and it's because I'm breathing only in and out of my mouth, so I don't make any sniffling sounds. Mm-hmm. So I sounded quite breathy. So I apologize to our listeners for the breathiness of my.
I actually thought the audio quality was quite good. There was. It feels like Jenny occasionally grabs the mic when she wants to talk, you know.
Yeah, I think what happened is Jenny was accidentally using the mic to her headphones.
Oh,
and
so
not
catching.
the
right.
And so when she would,
it was fine. I could hear it. I could hear it just fine. It was, and I thought
good.
The quality. I mean, honestly, I'm amazed you had me back because I thought it was very, very good. You know, but. In order to make my case for why you should have me back, I do have a couple of points of order that I'd like to bring up.
Right. Yes. This coming from the guy who spent a large portion of an episode discussing Dany's alliance with the Yunkai.
Okay. All right. One time I make a terrible error of memory.
So, anyway, what have you got? Tell us.
So last week's episode was Jon Snow, right? And yes. Jon Snow was thinking about his uncle Benjen Stark. And you, Jenny...
I know where you're going with this.
Could not come up with any mystery that was older than the disappearance of Benjen Stark, whilst... Let me just give you a clue here. Jon Snow was thinking about Benjen Stark.
We're like, this is a Jon chapter. What could possibly be a longer-running mystery than Benjen? Yes, Rave mentioned that in the Discord server as well.
Oh, good. I'm glad I wasn't the only one to notice it, because it was cracking me up. I was walking the dog listening to it, and I was like, what?
Is anybody going to mention Jon's mother? You know how it is. When the mics are hot, sometimes, you know.
Absolutely. And I, as I thought this would be fun to tease them about, I also thought, man, I know exactly that kind of, you've got your mind in a loop. The Yunkai comes to mind, you know.
Right. No, I looked it up. It is... So the Jon's mother discussion first comes up in Cat 1.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you were actually looking at when it was first mentioned as a mystery.
Yes.
And it does predate in terms of... Because I was thinking it predates in terms of its initiation by years and years and years. You know?
By year. Yes, by like 15 years or so. No, I just meant as far as the story goes. And it does as well. It still predates Benjen by about like 13 chapters or so before Benjen goes off and is never seen again.
Anyway, fun to tease.
I'm glad you brought it up because it is true. There is definitely a longer running mystery. So
it's fine. The other one was your discussion about Ramsay's motivation for sending the letter to Jon.
Right.
So you basically bifurcated on this quite interestingly. You said, why did he send it? Why did he send it to him? And then you concluded on that he did it just to rub it in Jon's face. I'm marrying your sister.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
But you also had a discussion about the fact that he signed it as the Lord of Hornwood.
Yes. Yes.
If he was rubbing it in Jon's face, wouldn't he have signed it Lord of Winterfell, unlike you?
That was what's so weird about it, is why maybe he knows that Jon knows you're not Lord of Winterfell until you marry my sister. Well, and so he was trying to give himself some credibility or something.
But you see Ramsay is following the protocols in that respect. I would sign this Lord of Winterfell, but as we both know...
It's not official until your sister and I have consummated our marriage.
Until I marry Jane Poole in front of all of the Northern Lords.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I was kind of two things. It was like a mystery why he would sign it Lord of Hornwood, and also why would he send it to someone who he knows can't come bend the knee to...
You made an excellent point. Like, what if Jon went, you know what? Let's have a jaunt.
Right. Wait a second, that's not my sister.
Exactly. I mean, that would be a huge moment if that actually happened.
Yes, it would. Anyway.
I have one other little story for you. On my drive back from the mountains, so I went to the mountains and had a lovely time. And I'm only partially injured, which is good. I mean, I'll take that.
I was wondering if there were any face plants into the water that we had to hear about.
Well, get this. I gained 4.4 pounds, which... handy for the conversion is exactly 2 kilograms. I gained 2 kilograms in weight on this 1 week vacation.
Whoa.
I know. But since I got back, I've lost 3 pounds in 4 days.
Okay. So it had to have been water weight.
In some ways it's water weight, but I was like in my ears? I mean,
right, that's what I was thinking. How much did you ingest of that lake?
Exactly. So very strange. But on the way back, we drove back on the Sunday, and I have the family call on the Sunday, and my mum was telling me that she went to see her doctor, and a doctor she's constantly seeing her doctor about sort of like tuning her medication for whatever she has medication for, and the doctor said, I don't want to put you on any higher dose of this. She said, no, it wasn't even that. It was, you need to do something to compensate for this drug. And she said, I know the thing that we've put you on before you didn't like. So she said, I recommend Tai Chi.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, how interesting. The doctor's recommending Tai Chi. So my mum, give my mum some chops here. I did not know she was capable of this. She went online to look if there was Tai Chi classes in her town.
Yeah, okay.
Like, good for you, Mum. Yeah.
Absolutely.
She said there are, but in the next town, it's hard for her to get to the next town. She doesn't drive, so she's kind of stuck. And I said, well, you could start your own Tai Chi club or something, Mum. I said, or you could just do it online. Just go online and look for Tai Chi on YouTube.
Right.
Beginner's Tai Chi and just follow along in front of the computer. And I thought she'd be like, oh, slow down, Professor. You know? Right. But she was like,
this is crazy talk.
She was like, would they have that on YouTube? I was like, yeah, sure they would. And she was like, oh yeah, I'll do that then. That's perfect. Without batting an eyelid. I know. I was like, this is really quite a strange conversation. The reason I bring it all up, that's the end of the conversation. It wasn't that interesting, it was just mildly interesting. But when I got home that evening, I turned the TV on and I turned to YouTube, and it had beginner's Tai Chi. I was like, man, Big Brother really is listening.
Seriously, that is fascinating and terrifying when things like that happen.
Well, to be fair, we do use Google Meet for the family call, so it is Google. So they are listening basically, and totally latched onto it.
So next time I log into YouTube, it's going to mention about Jon Snow's mother and Rickon Stark's disappearance.
Hopefully it will say spoiler alert.
Or maybe I'll get beginner's Tai Chi now that you've mentioned it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, well, let's get down to business. How do we leave Davos Seaworth? It seems like a long time since we've seen Davos Seaworth, but I have noticed something, Mackelly. It's going to be a really long time before we see him again.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
So last we saw of Davos, he was receiving a decidedly unfriendly reception from the Manderlys of White Harbour. His only hope was a fleeting glimpse of a fleet of new warships behind the harbour wall. But within, almost all the Manderlys have made common cause with the Freys. Just one granddaughter, Willa, defends Davos and Stannis and spits bile at the Freys. Would that there were more like her. Lord Wyman has Davos removed to the Wolf's Den, White Harbour's dungeon, and there to have his head and hands cut off. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
I see no reason not to. So Davos is still in the Wolf's Den, but he remains in one piece. Well, technically, I guess 5, but holding steady at 5. Every day he fears it will be his last. His jailer Garth has a huge axe named Lady Lou that will be used to finish the job. Garth delights in referring to Davos as the dead man. Accommodations are pretty good for a jail. The food borders on luxurious, and Garth grumbles about the dead eating better than the living. Davos stays quiet in the presence of Garth. He mislikes something about him. He's more talkative with the younger turnkey Thery and the chief jailer Sir Bartimus.
Bartimus shares the history of the Wolf's Den. Older than White Harbour, it served as a defence against sea raiders up the White Knife, and had been the seat of many a younger Stark son. After that, it had a checkered history, including a bloody interlude when slavers took it, only to be ousted by a Brandon Stark and have their entrails thrown into the branches of the heart trees. Davos sees this as blood magic, and Bartimus doesn't disagree. Davos spends his time writing letters to his wife and sons.
While making final edits, the cell is opened by Robett Glover, who nicely asks for Davos to accompany him. Robert reports that Stannis has retaken Deepwood Motte from the Greyjoys and plans to return it to its rightful lord, Robert's brother Galbart. Less happily, Moat Cailin has fallen to the Boltons, who now demand attendance at the Ramsay, and we'll say Arya, wedding. They pass through the Godswood and through a secret passage.
They emerge in a comfortably furnished room where Lord Wyman Manderly sits beneath a large map of the north. Wyman asks Davos if he would like wine. Davos says he will treat with him as required, but he does not have to drink with him. Wyman understands Davos's feelings. He treated Davos awfully the last time they met, but he had his reasons. Their time is short. There is a feast underway for Wyman's son Wylis's return to White Harbour. Wyman has excused himself to use the privy, but even his infamously bad bowels will only afford them so much time.
Wyman informs Davos that, though Davos doesn't know it, Davos is dead. Davos then recalls Garth's frequent moniker for him as the dead man. It was a prisoner who paid the ultimate price. The man looked enough like Davos. Sir Bartimus shortened his fingers to match Davos's. They heavily tarred the head, and the onion they put in the mouth further distorted the look. The abusive behavior in the Merman's court was all part of selling the believability.
Davos thinks the whole lot should form a mummers troupe. Davos felt Wyman's good daughter truly wanted him dead, and the little girl played her part spectacularly. Wyman admits both of them were showing true emotion, as neither knew the plan. Wyman could not be more proud of Willa's bravery. Only Winifred, the oldest granddaughter, knew, and she played her role perfectly. Wyman apologises. He dared not defy the Iron Thrall while they had his eldest son, Wylis, captive. Tywin Lannister made it all too clear that if Wyman did not bend the knee to Roose Bolton and repent his treason, Wylis would die and White Harbour would go the way of Castamere.
Davos's appearance couldn't have come at a better time. The Lannisters and Freys wanted him to prove his loyalty with a marriage pact, and Wyman wanted his son home safe before he did anything. Davos's arrival gave him an opportunity to prove loyalty without a permanent commitment. All that said, had the Freys bothered to inspect the head closer and find the truth, Davos's head would have been next on the spike.
His foes and false friends sniff around Wyman constantly for any signs of treachery. Even his maester is untrustworthy, having been a Lannister before becoming a maester. Wyman's son Wendell was murdered at the Twins in cold blood. Wyman will never forget that. But Robb Stark was not Ned Stark's only son. With that cryptic statement, Wyman sends for the boy.
Davos half expects to see a Stark son, or a close facsimile of one.
Can I interject? I thought that's what was going to happen too.
Right.
I was really excited. I was like, they've got, what's his name?
They've got that one boy. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not who we see. However, the boy is clearly not a Stark. He can't speak, so the boy carves his name into the wood. Wex. He's Theon's former squire, Wex Pike. Through pictures and gestures, the men have gathered the following. It was Ramsay Snow, now Bolton, who killed Sir Roderick Cassel, put Winterfell to the torch, captured Theon Greyjoy, and rounded up the Winterfell women for his sport. Wex hid in a tree during the sack of Winterfell and watched as Bran, Rickon, and company emerged from the crypts and left in opposite directions.
The men talk of Ramsay's depravity, hunting women, leaving Danella Hornwood for dead, flaying Theon, and the Iron Throne rewards him with Ned Stark's daughter. Wyman thinks Roose Bolton lies about his role in the Red Wedding as his bastard lies about the sack of Winterfell. The Freys are no better. They lie about Wendell's death. No, Wyman cannot truly believe the Warg story, yet revel in Wyman's acceptance of it.
When Davos asks what happens now, Wyman responds with a twinkle in his eye that he must attend a wedding. His friends of Frey arrive by ship, so he will give them a guest gift of a horse each to carry them to the wedding. Possibly Davos has seen the warships Wyman has commissioned. There are more hidden up the White Knife. If Davos can deliver what Wyman needs, he will pledge the ships, his knights, and his lords to Stannis.
When Davos offers to take the request to Stannis, Wyman says it's not a king he needs, it's a smuggler. After Bran and Rickon left Winterfell, Wex followed Rickon and a woman. He knows where they went. Davos must retrieve Rickon and his direwolf. The wolf is the key to validating the claim. With Ned Stark's son, they can trump Ned's daughter's claim. Davos asks where Rickon is, but dreads the answer. Wex throws the knife at the map. When it lands, Davos considers asking to go back to the wolf's den. At least there they eat porridge. Where he must go, the men are known to dine on human flesh.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's funny, actually. I was prepping for this chapter before I listened to the last chapter, before I listened to you and Jenny. But Jenny, in the run out, she said that this was one of her favourite chapters in the whole book.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
I'd already written this is one of my favourite chapters for a long while. You know? And
Yep.
part of it is just the way that George Martin treats us, because he takes our beloved characters and he makes their lives an absolute misery. You know?
Sure does.
I mean,
Yeah.
even the not even beloved, but vaguely liked characters like Theon. It takes him down to the pit
Right.
of despair as well.
Very
so
true.
when he gives us just that little scrap, just that little thing of this isn't over yet, it's like, oh my god, it's water
it's a
to a
rare
drowning man.
Fist pumping chapter. We don't get many fist pumping chapters.
Yeah.
Jenny's praise definitely wasn't wrong, and we get relief. Davos is not dead. It was a ruse all along.
Yeah.
We found out that he died through reports to Cersei, and we had talked at the time, and that seemed like a poor ending for a well-loved character. But I think we also mentioned at the time that Martin wasn't afraid to give well-loved characters poor endings. So
He usually did it in front of us. You know?
yes.
It was like Robert with murdering the children.
Right. Maximize the pain. Yes.
But yes, it would have been incredibly blunt to have Davos just disappear like that, just to be there. Of course, he was always planning to have Davos be in the Dance with Dragons chapters, so we could now be witnessing Davos's death. You know, that
Yes.
could have been what happened. But
That's true. Yeah, because we went back in time when Dance with Dragons started.
But I alluded to, this is the last Davos chapter of the book.
Right. Yeah. What a cliffhanger to end it on.
I know,
right as
right?
we're pumping our fists, all right, we're going to do this. Let's get some revenge. And then that's it for Davos.
Can I ask where the dagger landed in the map? I think I know, actually. Unusually for me, without doing any research, I think I know where it landed, because it got mentioned a couple of times in the last book, in particular by Sam, I believe. Sam was the one who mentioned it, because they sailed past the island of Skagos, and there was talk of cannibals living on Skagos.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. You're exactly right. It's never said where. Like, the chapter ends with the knife hitting the map and Davos thinking, can I go back to prison, please?
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. But, like you said, there's been some clues in the story that give us an idea of where cannibalism might be a common practice in Westeros. And we do know that Rickon and Asha and Shaggy Dog went west when Bran went north.
Right,
so,
which would bring them this way. Secondly...
east. Sorry, I said west. I meant east.
I wondered which way. But anyway, secondly, there's two other pieces of evidence. One is that the map was only of the north, so it couldn't be Essos or anything like that. It has to be somewhere in the north. And thirdly, if it's on the mainland, you could send anyone. But Davos is a sailor and a smuggler. He's perfect.
And Wyman specifically says that my men are rivermen. They're not skilled at open seafaring.
There we go.
And
all right,
that's why he needs Davos.
This is not spoiler. This is just us being smart.
Yes, but what also isn't stated is whether Wex will accompany Davos. Because Davos doesn't even know what Rickon looks like. He would notice the direwolf next to him, possibly.
That's what I was going to say. Well, this plan is rather predicated on a Shaggy Dog. I think he would notice that thing. Yes. But of course, I mean, who knows? You know, I mean, like, maybe the rumors of cannibalism on Skagos are exaggerated, but perhaps the direwolf is a delicacy there, and they've already chomped down on him.
Right. Yeah, remember, there was I think it was a ghost, well, it was a John dream through Ghost, where he saw Shaggy Dog taking down was an animal with a horn, and we had discussed the fact that there are unicorns. So there are said to be unicorns on Skagos. So there is another possible reference to back up, to support our guess here.
I know in the notes here you've written that the beginning of Davos 3 makes sense, but you often leave these cryptic things in the notes to make me feel stupid.
No, they're just there to remind me what I was going to say. Well, so this is what I was talking about. When Davos first got to the new castle, which is the primary castle of the seat of the Manderlys.
Yeah.
He was held for 18 days when he arrived.
Right.
Now it starts to make some sense, because it probably took some time to develop and orchestrate this plan. Those in the know had to learn roles and expectations, like Winifred, the jailers, etc. A suitable lookalike had to be produced. They couldn't just order the execution without some sort of plan of who they were going to do the swap with.
True.
Maybe they learned from Wex some info that aided in the decision to spare Davos, because they were getting all this information about the terrible things that the Freys and Boltons, well, from Wex they were only getting Boltons, but they can make assumptions about the Freys based on their interactions with the Boltons. And Wyman said that he couldn't eat until Davos's head and hands were on a spike with an onion in the mouth, and that there won't be a long time between execution and between the orders and the execution if Wyman's meal schedule is on
Good point. Yeah.
So there's no time to find a lookalike at that point.
Yeah. I take your point, but that's actually worried me now, because it dawns on me that one of the people in the know here is Subartimus. And what do we know about Subartimus? He gets into his cups every night and chit-chats with the prisoners. I'm a little bit worried about that. If I was the Freys, first of all, well, okay, I'm saving this up for pedantry, because Jenny's not here to stop me. So I'm going to pass over what I was about to say. But yeah, that's a leaky. Those are loose lips that could sink this ship, I feel.
Yes, I agree. And there's also Garth, who they think, who Davos thinks there's something not quite right about that guy. It's a little bit risky
It is possible
you know.
Garth and Theory weren't in on the plan, though, but...
Well, yeah, except for Garth kept calling him the dead man, so it seems like...
He knew that a substitute had been used, yeah.
And Wyman says that Sir Bartimus cut off the prisoner's head and hands,
right.
But likely that means Sir Bartimus had Garth use Lady Lou to do those deeds.
It does seem Garth likes that job, so it'd be cruel to take it from him.
Right, yes. Yeah. And he didn't get to do it with Davos, so, it'd be nice to give him a replacement.
But the flip side of that is Garth, relatively speaking, seems sober. If something's not good about him that Davos doesn't like, but he won't accidentally give the game away, whereas Sir Bartimus might.
True. Mm. And that Theory seemed like a chatty young man.
Yeah, but he might have been kept out of it, right? I mean...
I guess maybe they wouldn't say who this man is, yeah.
The chopping the fingers off is very hard to justify that in any other way than...
Right.
So if you're aware of that, you're in on the plan, it seems like. But could it have happened on the same day? Did they have to chop the fingers off and then let it heal over before they beheaded him? Is that what the 18 days was about?
I think it could have all happened in one day, I would think.
Yeah. I guess if you tar the stumped hands, you wouldn't notice that they were fresh stumps. Yeah.
Yes, so. You could maybe cauterize that whole situation there.
So a big piece of the chapter, actually, which we rather skipped over in the retelling just because it was quite long, is the Wolf's Den's long and bloody history. Fascinating. I wondered, I didn't put it in the discussion points because I thought you might mention it in background.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. There was not much more to say that wasn't said in this chapter.
We didn't say it, so you can blabber about it if you want.
Yes. Well, for one thing, the description of the history and description of the Wolf's Den is just George Martin's masterful world building, creating these histories and backstories that are just so rich and so unique and full of like one of the Starks was named Ice Eyes, and an Aaron was named the Talon, and the Old Falcon, and like these are just like, I went to look up those guys. There was nothing else about them, but they have like these really cool monikers.
They're one moment in the book, and that's all. Yeah, and for that they were given the name Talon, which is
Yes, and I just think he does amazing work.
Yeah.
It might be the thing he does best is his world building. One detail about the Wolf's Den is that it was raised by King John Stark, and I thought there could have been another John Stark had he taken Stannis' offer, but alas, he did not, so he will remain Jon Snow.
That name doesn't crop up very often, does it, John Stark?
Not like Brandon, that's for sure.
Brandon. Brandon's like leaves from a weirwood tree.
But I also thought it was noteworthy that the Grey Starks sided with the Boltons to overthrow the Stark Kings. They were once the lords of the Wolf's Den.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you get the feeling that whenever there's a sort of secondary strain of a family, there'll always be a sort of like an envy and a sort of...
Yeah.
It happens over and over again, I mean, the Blackfires, to a certain extent, are an example as well.
True.
They're not the primary thread of the family, but they certainly have a claim, and so they want to exert their authority and assert the throne if they can.
Yeah, that's very true.
So the Manderlys are unique in the north in that they follow the new gods, right?
Right.
But Sir Bartimus follows the old gods, so they're obviously not so. They obviously don't insist that their lords and followers convert, which is a relief. I think that would not go well.
Yeah. It's unusual for a knight in general to worship the old gods, because by the nature of the order, most knights worship the seven because knighthood was brought to Westeros by the Andals, along with the faith of the seven. And often knighting ceremonies involve a vigil in the sept, anointed with oils by a septon, words that are often spoken in knighting ceremonies. They evoke the seven, but none of that is necessary. You can make a knight without any of that pomp and circumstance, such as battlefield knightings. They don't have time to go through all that. So, but it's why there are fewer knights in the North and in the Iron Islands, because the seven is less worshipped in those regions.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So it's just it's unusual. He stands out in a crowd of knights.
We get a tender moment when Davos writes the letters to his families. Again, we kind of skipped over the contents of those letters, but they were sweet and sort of self-reflective. He says,
yes,
he lists to his wife that he was I think he was a better smuggler than he was a knight, a better knight than he was a hand of the king, and a better hand of the king than he was a husband.
Yes, you got it right. Yeah, yeah. I thought they were both sad, equal parts sad and beautiful. These letters, the excerpts that we got of them to his family.
The only reason they didn't really fill me up is because by this point I was getting hopeful that he was getting out of this mess.
Right.
You can hand these over to them at the end of the book.
Right. So the kids, Devon is like 12 to 13. Stannis is somewhere around 9 to 11, and Stefan is 6 to 7. So you could certainly understand. It's been, I don't know exactly how long since he last saw his family, those members, his wife and his two youngest, but it's been several years. So he really would not know Stefan very well. You
can pretty much estimate it by the lack of a child,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's been that much of a gap. There doesn't seem to be that much of a gap between the other kids.
But he admits himself he barely knows the two younger ones. He doesn't really know anything about them. He knows Devon better because Devon is cupbearer to Stannis, and so he's actually and so his letter to him is how proud he is and how well the letter to his wife is if we win, Stannis will take care of you, and if we lose, you might want to get out of here,
Yeah, get across the narrow sea to Bravos. Yeah, I was thinking poor Maria, his wife, 7 sons. She could be down to 2. If Stannis loses, Devon might not survive as well. And she'll likely lose her husband, her castle, her status as a lady, and...
you might not want to send that letter, honestly.
Right.
It's not much good news in there.
Devon is at Castle Black, but that he didn't go with Stannis on Stannis's march that he's on right now. So that's a small bit of more. He's a little bit safer, but Castle Black is not exactly the Eyrie right now as far as safe places to be.
Good point. So. Yes. So, Davos is concerned about what's going on this day because the pattern is different this day. He wakes up and he isn't served breakfast and he's getting hungry. And then Robett Glover arrives. We knew Robett Glover was in White Harbour because Davos heard it, before going up to Newcastle that Robett Glover was in town.
Right, trying to raise men for a force of some kind.
Right.
And we were just with his wife, Lady Sybil, when we were in the Asha chapter, because right now she is the lady of Deepwood Motte, because Galbart doesn't have a wife at the moment.
Right.
So Sybil is the lady that Asha dragged to and from the Iron Islands.
Yeah.
And Sybil, from her own words, said you treated us well enough, and that she would offer to spare Asha to get her children back. And it seems, based on what Robett says, Stannis has given the castle back to Sybil, or Galbart, if he ever emerges, because Galbart's been missing for a while now. And that would definitely endear Stannis to the family, although Robett later in this chapter says Stannis is your king, not ours. So not fully endear
Right.
Stannis to the family.
Right.
But their kids are still, Robert's and Sybil's kids are still at 10 Towers on the Iron Islands, so that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, that might be Stannis' route to cementing the alliance with the Glovers, at least, is to say, we will spare Asher.
Yes, true.
In return for them, and then the Greyjoy, the Glovers will be more inclined to be his ally. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes some sense.
So when Davos meets with Wyman Manderly, he is testy at first, understandably so, because he doesn't understand why he's not dead, but he has nothing. That's the only reason he has to think that everything that he heard wasn't on face value, and that's not enough. He thinks, there's just some delay in. They're calling me dead man.
Right.
I'm only headed one way. So he is prickly towards Wyman Manderly, and Wyman Manderly is genuinely sort of sorry for it. It is interesting how few people were in on it, and how many people played their part without any prompting.
Yes. Yeah. The scene in the Merman's Court, last Davos chapter, was pretty brutal and humiliating for Davos. So you could understand, aside from not being dead, like you said, that would make you think, well, what was that all about? You set off with my head and hands, and that didn't happen.
Have you been fasting for 12 more days? I don't get it.
Right. Yeah. And then he claims it's a mummer's farce, and that some of them were playing their roles and some of them were being naively honest.
Yeah.
And it makes sense now. The look that passed over Wyman's face when Rhaegar Frey called Robb Stark a vile dog, and the description was something like Wyman looked at Rhaegar like a cockroach in need of squishing.
Right.
So, we got that little glimpse of, Martin gave us that tiny little bit of foreshadowing that something was not quite right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, just one more time, can we just... Willa was the granddaughter who stood up for Davos, right?
Yes.
She is the North right there. She's the Lyanna Mormont of White Harbor.
She's the Arya Stark. I was thinking that too. Yeah, she definitely gave some Arya Stark, Lyanna Mormont vibes.
And the interesting thing about it is, I really thought that Wyman would have shut her up quicker, because it added a sort of reality to the situation. The fact that there was some dissent, but her dissent was so strong and so profound that it would have shamed the rest of them into changing their minds. You know what I mean?
And there was an audience, so there were other people watching all this.
Right. If I was Wyman, I would have been like, you get out of here now. Not another word out of your mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe he wanted to say those things so badly that he couldn't stop himself. Letting Willa just say some of the things that he wanted so badly to get out.
And then, of course, but on the flip side, he banked on the people jumping on the bandwagon who really wanted Wylis back. That worked out perfectly. He didn't have to tell them that it was a ruse. In fact, he couldn't tell them it was a ruse because they wouldn't have played their parts as well.
Yeah, like Willis's wife, Lady Leona.
Exactly.
She truly was
terrified for his life. Wants Wyman to do whatever he has to do to get back in with the Freys. So
right. But Winifred was the one person that he mentioned that was a family member that did know. And she played her role really well as well. She sang the tune of support for the Freys, and I felt like that takes its own type of bravery to play this role convincingly, knowing that your father's life might be at stake depending on how you
I hadn't thought about
handle your bit.
Yeah, that she probably believes in the cause, but she also knows that the cause is risking her father's life far more than the opposite cause would. The opposite cause of let's just lay over and play dead here, would bring her father back, whereas doing what she was doing was helping to risk his life. But at the same time, there was clearly a pathway here for him to come back. He came back. They got him back.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
the ruse worked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a really cool line. So this chapter is pretty much most famous, and the reason people love it so much is because of the monologue that Wyman Manderly goes on here, where he finally says all the things that we've all known and thought about the Freys and the Boltons, and he gets it out. And there's one part where he is talking about how he's constantly being watched, and his foes and false friends are always sniffing around for some sort of treasonous act. And he says, they infest my city like roaches. At night, I feel them crawling over me. And I just thought, that is what, yes, I love that line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he goes on to say that the Freys have bought several servants and 2 knights, and that one of the handmaidens is sleeping with Wyman's fool. So they're doing everything they can to try and vet all this stuff.
Which is exactly why so few people had to be in on the plan, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But you can imagine it was kind of like, up till Wylis came home, this had to have been like Wyman's own personal hell. One of his sons is dead. The other is captive. The family responsible for his dead son is all around, and he has to pretend to side with and believe them, even though they know that you don't, but they know you can't do anything but pretend that you do.
And especially the one who walks in here with the name Rhaegar. I mean, like...
Yes.
It's just not right. You can't call Rhaegar Frey.
Right. And his maester can't even be trusted.
Yeah.
Because he is a Lannister of Lannisport.
Yeah.
But, he was a Lannister before he became a maester. And last chapter, we discussed this in spoilers of last chapter, but...
Oh, I didn't get to hear
last
those.
Chapter in the not this last chapter, the last Davos chapter. Yeah. In the Merman's court, he outright dismissed the idea of royal incest as nothing but one of Stannis' lies to steal the throne. Of course, he's going to say that. Does that come as any shock, as his surname was once Lannister?
Uh-huh.
And Theodore is possibly why Davos is even here in the first place. Because Davos was sent because Wyman's responses were not helpful or decisive in any way. They just talked about excuses and about his health. So Stannis sent Davos to treat with Wyman to see if he can figure out where Wyman stands. And it's because he didn't trust his own maester to send these letters that he was being so vague.
Huh. And, I mean, the other thing, of course, is in a few chapters' time, we're going to realize the reasons no one should trust their maester. That's still to come as well. Not just the Lannister maesters.
All maesters. It's coming up quick.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, the calculus has changed now so dramatically that Wylis is home. Because that's really the only bargaining chip the Freys had. So now, the sigh of relief that you must breathe now, that you could...
Yes.
They could kill all those Freys if they wanted to.
Right, they could.
It's dangerous, but they could just slaughter them, right? They could be like, you lied, you killed my son. Now prepare to meet your doom,
I wondered about... So, one of the features, they cut off his head, they cut off his hands, tarred them, put them on a spike, and put an onion in Davos's mouth. And I wondered if that was an inspired detail to reduce facial recognition, or just a happy accident that Wyman said that off the cuff because he was hungry. And because they describe, Wyman describes the head and says, the mouth, the onion in the mouth helps to distort recognition.
Yeah,
so,
maybe.
Did they think, what? We'll put an onion in his mouth and it'll make it even harder for them to recognize him.
Yeah. Again, Willa, my hero, the one I've got tattooed on my heart now, she fought for Davos, and she reminded them of the debt that the Starks are owed by the Manderlys. going to remind me of what that was? Because I remember Willa talking about it, but I don't remember what it was.
Well, so, yeah, we did a background on this. I don't think it was that chapter. It might have been the Davos chapter before. But the Manderlys were once a great house of the Reach. And at some point, they were driven from the Reach by the Gardener Kings due to their growing influence in the kingdom. The Gardeners didn't care for the competition, so they ran them out of the Reach. And the Manderlys fled north and were welcomed by the Starks. And the Starks gave them a home in the north and tasked them with defending the White Knife. So they gave them a home and a purpose.
Yeah.
And that is the that's the debt.
Yeah. And also didn't force them to give up their gods. I mean, to me, that's
Right.
it's always a big thing if you don't have to give up your gods. Stannis should take note.
True. Yes, absolutely.
So Wyman gets an odd twinkle in his eye when speaking about attending this wedding. But then he's also complaining about having to go, being forced to go by Roose and traveling with the Freys. I mean, both of those things are annoying. But he's got something cooking.
Yes. It is odd that he gets a twinkle in his eye. But while he's talking to Davos about this wedding, he makes a point of talking about guest gifts and comparing the north to the south and asking, do they still give guest gifts in the south?
Yes.
And Davos says, yeah, they do. Some still do. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to give each of the Freys, he has 3 Freys that are his guests in his house, a horse because they arrived by ship.
Yep.
And so he asks Davos, about that. Do they still do that? And he says, yes. And he says, well, then perhaps you will understand then. But he doesn't really finish about understand what. And I think what he's getting at is that the guest gifts signify the end of guest rights. So possibly he's saying, are you picking up what I'm putting down? I'm giving them guest gifts. So they are no longer under my protection.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting.
Guest rights is no longer a factor because I gave them their parting gifts.
That would certainly create the twinkle. The other thing that would create the twinkle, of course, is Wyman is going to travel to wherever the wedding is being held by wagon because he can't ride a horse anymore. It's going to take a long time. Pure and simple, just going to take a long time. Is he expecting his other wedding gift to be the arrival of Rickon Stark? Is that why he's got a twinkle?
Maybe. I hadn't thought about that option. That could be it as well. Depends on how long it takes to get there.
Because the thing is, I mean, he's turning the tables. He's going to fight the Freys and the Boltons, and maybe the wedding is where he reveals it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
Got to do it at some large gathering, right? He's got to reach a mass group of Northern Lords.
Right. And he recounts why he thinks he's going to be successful because he's got all these warships, many more than Davos saw. He's got full coffers. Right. He has heavy horse, and he has influence over the other houses. I mean, the Manderlys are the richest and one of the most influential houses in the north. They're staying true to the Starks is a big, big moment.
It is. It paints quite an enticing picture for Stannis. He says he has 12 petty lords and 100 landed knights that are his bannermen. And that's not nothing.
Yeah.
That's that.
And if the timing and the reality of finding Rickon and Shaggy Dog can come to pass, it could happen in an instant. I mean, this could, you could imagine if Rickon and Shaggy Dog walk up the aisle during the wedding and say, no, 2 things. 1, that ain't my sister. And 2, you're standing in my place.
Right. Yes.
Every Northern Lord is going to take up their swords against the Boltons and the Freys there and then.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing I wondered about Wyman's assets, he mentions the warships, and he also then later says that Davos has to be the one that goes and rescues Rickon,
right?
Because the Manderly men are rivermen and not skilled in open seafaring,
right?
And I thought, is that an overlooked hurdle with all the warship building? Hey, those are great warships. Now who's going to crew them? I don't know. Our men are rivermen. We don't have any sailors.
But maybe the warships aren't the right thing to send to Skagos, you know?
Yes. But you'd also think of warships as not just river galleys.
No,
but
exactly. I think these are ocean-going ships. To land on Skagos would require some skill, and these ships are not the right thing. So you're lacking both the personnel and the equipment to do it.
Yes.
So,
but my concern is if they need them for war, these warships, if they want to put them to their use, they need captains and sailors.
I think he's got men who are capable of sailing a warship on the sea.
Okay,
That's
just not smuggler ship.
Exactly.
Not a smuggler.
Smuggler size, smuggler,
yes,
skills.
That could be.
That's what they're missing. That's what I think.
Yeah, that could be. So the ultimate plan here seems to be to bring Rickon and Shaggy. I almost forgot his name for real. To bring the youngest one. What's his name again? To bring Lord what's his name, first of his name, and to rally the North around him. And I wondered, would Stannis make common cause with Rickon? Would he?
Why not? Why not?
I guess it would depend. As long as Rickon's willing to bend the knee, he definitely would.
Right. And to me, that seems reasonable. If I'm Rickon, or if I'm Rickon's advisors, I say to him, look, bend the knee. You'll be Lord of Winterfell, just like your father was. You won't be King of the North like your brother was, but you know how long he lived? Not long.
Right. Yes, I agree. I think that's how... I hope that's how that will go if that day comes.
But actually,
it just makes
saying
sense.
The words advisor there is kind of funny. It's like, who the hell would his advisor be? I was thinking, the only person I could think of was Davos, and I was like, well, that's not exactly an impartial advisor.
Osha. The wildling.
Osha, yeah. That's the closest thing now.
Maybe some lord in Skagos or something will act as his advisor.
All right, it's time for some spoilers. If you want to listen to the spoilers, unlike me, you have to join the upper tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainers, and then you get the spoilers, which, even as we get towards the end, are still very interesting. All right, excellent. Good spoilers. Thank you, Mackelly. You know what I found was I'd never really listened to the episode. It's kind of jarring to get all right, time for some spoilers. Go, great spoilers. It's like, oh, what did I miss?
Well, you could go find out on the Buy Me a Coffee page. You have access to it.
Oh, I do? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Why don't you give me some background on this one?
All right. Well, so Wyman suggests that if Davos fulfills his duty and returns with Rickon and Shaggy, he'll pledge his services to Stannis. Along with all the White Harbor brings, he'll also bring Oldcastle, Widow's Watch, Ramsgate, and the lands east of the White Knife, which include Sheep's Head Hills and the headwaters of Broken Branch. So what are all these seats and geographical landmarks? Well, I'm just going to take them one at a time. Oldcastle is the seat of House Locke. It's located south of White Harbor along the northern shores of the Bight. Sir Bartimaeus actually mentioned that House Locke once held the Wolf's Den for nearly 200 years. Widow's Watch is the seat of a branch of House Flint. We've seen Flints all over the north. This branch is thought to be the most powerful of the Flint branches. Widow's Watch is located along a small peninsula that sticks out between the mouth of the Bight and the Shivering Sea, almost due east of White Harbor. Ramsgate is a castle at the mouth of the Broken Branch River where it flows into the Bight. It's unclear, at least I don't know, whose seat the castle is, but they do appear to owe fealty to Wyman because he says they'll do what he wants them to do. And speaking of the Broken Branch, it's a much smaller river than the White Knife and is east of the White Knife. And Sheep's Head Hills is a hilly region where the Broken Branch's headwaters are. This area is bordering on Bolton territory, though, as Hornwood Castle is on the border of Sheep's Head Hills region, and the Dreadfort is not too far north of that.
Right.
And ultimately, all of these landmarks that he mentions are kind of in the southeastern region of the north.
Which makes sense, yeah. All right, thanks. Comparison with the television
Certainly.
show, we've completely gone off the rails. Rickon's story was entirely different in the TV show. The Manderlys barely exist in the TV show. Davos certainly never visits them. He's basically always at Stannis' hand the whole time through. I'll say
As a hand of the king should.
exactly. The book is much better. The book
Oh,
is
yeah.
much better here. This is all
I bet.
so intriguing and exciting, and the TV show. And again, I'm very forgiving of the TV show because they had to squeeze it in. They had to get to an ending, you know.
Right.
They had to
Yeah.
do the thing that George Martin appears incapable of doing and bringing this back together. So they cut some
Yep.
corners, and this is just an unfortunate corner to cut because it's a great part of the story.
It really is. But yeah, like you said, it's understandable. They can't have as many storylines and as many characters. As
Right.
Martin is no, he can throw in a character and it doesn't cost him anything in the budget.
You know how long it would have taken to make that show? I mean, look, we're on episode 301 of this thing, you know,
That's right.
and we're still nowhere near the end, you know.
Yes, true.
Pedantry corner. So I got two things for pedantry this time. First of all, it's kind of a character decision, but a key, possibly the key Northern Lord declares loyalty to you even while you are intentionally antagonizing him with cockamamie stories. You've murdered one of his sons and you've got a second one held captive, and he demonstrates his loyalty by executing Davos. And no Frey thought to check that. They're scrutinizing everything. They're planting spies everywhere. And nobody thought to say, can we witness this, please?
Right. Just one of us. We don't all need to be there.
Exactly.
That is so true. Why would they just trust? It's like that. It's like that scene in Austin Powers where Dr. Evil's son is like, I've got a gun. We'll go shoot him right now. We'll do it together. And he's like, no, we're going to put him in this overly elaborate shark tank and just assume that he dies.
Exactly. And the other one is better pedantry, but also entirely frivolous. Okay. As I recall, Davos was hungry.
Yes.
But when Wyman offered him...
His stomach was growling.
His stomach was growling. When Wyman offered him food, now he was being salty, as you point out, but he said, no, I was well fed in the dungeons. But he was hungry at that moment. He was generally well fed, but he was hungry at that moment. So refusing the food because he wasn't hungry didn't make any sense.
You're right. I actually thought of that while we were reading the summary.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I had. Is that when you came up with it as well, or did you already thought about it?
No. I thought of it ages ago, and I wrote it down because otherwise, you know me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's right. That was part of why he knew something was off because the porridge was late.
Porridge was late,
and his stomach started growling.
He never got the porridge, right? It's not like it was late.
No.
And eventually it arrived. It never came. Yeah, Robett Glover came instead of the porridge. Yeah,
exactly.
So it just that was just a continuity mistake. That could have been caught.
He should have said, well, could I have my porridge while we're sitting here, at least? Can I take it with me?
I do not want to eat with you, sir, but, actually, it does smell good, so. All right, news and notes. We're going to have a sustainer call, right?
Yeah, I think.
I noticed that the sentence in the notes ends with a question mark, so.
I meant to discuss this with you before we started recording. We will be having a sustainer call. Just keep an eye out for an invite. We are due, summers we get busy with traveling and guests and stuff, so we are due for one. We will be organizing one. We just have to discuss and look at a calendar and figure out when it works for us.
Super. All right, we've got a review from podchaser.com, and it's really good. I want you to read it because I tend to steal these.
No. Well, it's really long, so maybe that's why I don't want to be the one that reads it.
Well, actually, you do a lot of the reading, so I don't mind doing it because I'm very excited to read it.
Yeah. Go ahead, you read it.
So it's from Daniel. It's Daniel MG on podchaser.com. I listened on Spotify, but wanted to make sure I left this amazing podcast to review somewhere. I've been listening to Simon and Mackelly for a while now, and I'm starting to catch up. Just completed the 4-year anniversary special episode from the back end of A Storm of Swords. I don't remember that.
I think that's when we did live.
The live one. Oh, God. I have heard... Sorry.
I think that's the one. I'm not sure, quite honestly.
I have read A Song of Ice and Fire several times and am desperately trying to avoid another reread while waiting for The Winds of Winter to be completed. Your podcast has allowed me to scratch that itch while keeping my focus on other books. Your consistency is your greatest asset. Unexpectedly funny, witty banter, good discussions, especially trying to explore all potential options and theories, even when dancing carefully but somewhat clumsily around spoilers. True. And I enjoy the background and comparison television show. It was the fact that you had recorded 209 episodes by your 4-year anniversary. 52 weeks times 4 equals 208. That meant I just had to give you a review. I look forward to listening to you through A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, and perhaps A Night of the Seven Kingdoms after that, since George Martin is still writing. You know what? We'll do what the punters want, Daniel. Let me tell you. Thank you to Simon for insisting on translations of Mackelly's Americanisms for us non-US listeners. You see?
It's important. Yes, it's an important thing that you do.
Well done, both of you, for this fantastic ongoing achievement. P.S. After over 200 episodes, I still can't figure out whose voice it is that says, "We'll be right back," just before the adverts. I wondered about that. I think it's a rando. It's not us. It's neither of us.
It is. It's a voiceover from Buzzsprout.
Yeah, he's rich and redolent. It doesn't sound like either of us whiny complainers.
There was an option to record your own, and I did it, but I never could get it to work, so I just ended up going with the default voice.
We'll be right back.
Right.
I like that.
It is
Daniel,
much more professional than us.
Yeah. That's really nice of you, Daniel. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And if Night of the Seven Kingdoms is what you want, we should do that on Discord. Have a poll on Discord. What should we do next? Because sneaky bet, we're going to be finished before George's.
Well, that would be where the money, like that. The money would be on that if we had to bet one way or the other. But yes, thank you, Daniel. Thank you for writing. I mean, that's a lot. That must have taken some time to do. So thank you for the time you put into this. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. All right, let's conclude this one. A spark of hope for the forces of good. The Manderlys are not kowtowing to the Freys. Hooray! But Davos being sent on a suicide mission? It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And I will say, one thing I haven't stressed, which I came through several times in this chapter, is that Wyman Manderly does not care about Davos Seaworth one iota. Like he said, if the Freys had discovered the ruse, I would have blamed the gaoler and I would have executed you in front of them.
When he said that, I thought, I'm not sure that entirely gets him out of being in some sort of suspicious type trouble, because unless that there happened to be two prisoners that were missing fingers on the same fingers on the same hand, someone was pulling a fast one.
Yeah, I mean, but I think what you do is you blame Garth, and you say, Garth, obviously Davos Seaworth told Garth that Stannis would reward him for doing this.
Oh, yeah. I guess so.
And then you rip Garth's tongue out awful quick.
Right, so he can't dispute it.
And then the Freys are like, would you stop? You keep on getting in the way of our investigation. Oh, sorry. Yeah, now I think about it. Yeah, that was silly.
I should have waited so that he could,
So it is scary for Davos, because Wyman Manderly doesn't care about him. He's got what he wants, and he's just found a use for Davos, which is essentially nothing to do with Davos's current role. It's simply, he is a smuggler who could do this for me, and I'm willing to offer my services to Stannis in return for this, because if I get this, then I've won the North back for the Starks, and bending the knee to Stannis is nothing after that. That's what we really want. Everything else can fall into place. Who cares?
Absolutely. All true.
Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful northern houses finally able to flex some muscles.
Yeah.
The shackles are off. Wylis is home. And like I said, one of the most powerful northern houses. The Manderlys are the biggest prize that Stannis has available to him that's left on the board.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He commands, Wyman commands more heavy horse than any other northern lord, which is a pretty useful distinction right there. He has 12 petty lords, 100 landed knights. He has coffers full of silver. He's got the walls of White Harbor. He's got warships, even though he has no one to actually sail them.
Apparently.
Right. Yeah, he could be very helpful to Stannis. Now, you wouldn't imagine warships be very helpful in a war in the north, but Stannis lost his entire fleet. So when he does eventually have to square off against the Iron Throne, having a fleet of his own would be useful.
Yeah. Yep.
And Wyman and Robett know about the Bolton skeletons in their closet. All the secrets, the fact that Ruse and the Freys worked together for the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
The fact that Ramsay lied about him being the hero of Winterfell when really he's the one that killed Roderick Cassel and put the castle to the torch and gathered up all the women to bring back to the Dreadfort. There was, what we were told is that he saved the women and brought them to the Dreadfort for safety when really he's using them to hunt for sport and then to kill and flay. So,
but what they don't know is that Arya isn't Arya, and they won't be able to make that determination. But Rickon could. I mean, I'm sure Rickon remembers Arya. He was small, but
yes, I agree. He would be able. I think he could. Yeah, I don't know. He is young. I mean, he's almost a man grown. He was almost 4.
Yeah.
So his memory should be fully formed at this point.
Yeah, but that is an interesting question, isn't it? Would he recognize? Would he know?
Yeah, that is. Because he would also know Jane.
He would know Jane, exactly. So he might
get them confused in his head.
Or that might help, because you might be like,
True.
It's not just a kid who looks like my sister. It is a kid I knew who was not my sister. So I have that distinction.
Yes, that could be. And also, Lady Serwyn, Clay's older sister, who's now the lady of House Serwyn because her father and brother have died, they're the closest castle, like distance-wise, to Winterfell. And that's why Clay and Bran were buddies.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if she might know the girls at some level and might
be and
able
again,
to knowing
that. Jane Poole is the useful thing here because you're like, she's familiar, but she's not Arya. Yeah. She's that other one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sadly, though, this is where we leave Davos.
Right.
His last POV chapter in the book, 13 POVs, and right as things are getting exciting on his journey. Yeah. Now, it's not the end for Wyman, so we have that to look forward to. But we just possibly Davos is headed to Skagos. That's what the evidence would support. But we've run out of runway for Davos. Yeah. We'll have to wait for Winds to find out exactly where this is going.
We'll have to settle for Dany next week. That'll be fun anyway.
Yes.
Don't worry. All right.
Dany's got a lot more runway left.
She does, yeah. There are 3 ways that you can help us. You can leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review like Daniel MG did. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal, or you can become a sustainer there at any of the various levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. You can donate directly to our cause through our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, well, one thing you can do is send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode's show notes. Just please keep in mind, we have no means of responding to you, but we do enjoy reading them, especially when they say nice things about us. If you're interested in keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, I suggest you check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal, or on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.